there are all sorts of people who do well in life, like engineers, biochemists, lawyers, doctors, people who make plastics. Like, there are all sorts of ways people make money. It is so interesting. If somebody stands up in public to try and educate and improve society, kind of as almost a social entrepreneur, it's weird how angry, first of all, there's just a fair question, which is like, why shouldn't somebody who's helping, well, is anyone going to disagree that sexual health is core to the human experience and human identity? No one rational or logical or credible. So assuming that sexual health is central to the human experience and essential for happy marriage, happy life, happy single life, whatever it is, and then there's somebody who stands up doing a really effective, good job at educating people and helping them have better sexual health, better sexual identity, better sexual relations, you would think everyone would be like, give that woman $1 million a year, because she's making a huge positive difference, right? But in the lives of so many people in such a positive way. But that's not how money works with many of the followers and listeners, is it?
No, I think, in fact, the opposite happens.
Yeah, what happened to you? What happens?
People who do social good in their jobs, that type of work is often not profitable by nature. We're not selling people things, we're not selling services. We're not participating in capitalism in the same way. So there's the media aspect of it. Like, media is monetized, so you can make money there. But the cause-based stuff and nonprofit stuff and activist stuff in general, I think I have a lot of thoughts on this topic, and I've thought about it a lot as someone who has monetized some of my activism. I think the activists there should be a way in society for more social good stuff to be paid without the sort of blessing of our oligarchs, all the rich people who are like, yeah, I can support that cause. Like, it shouldn't rely on some overarching power structure to endorse social justice, or I would call Mormon stories social justice. These
I do. I certainly do. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is. It's like, freeing people from the oppressive forces that have shaped their lives in so many ways. And yeah, I think that people should be able to make a living doing that. Now, something that has happened with the internet, the sort of dark side of all of this, is that people realize you can make money by being professionally woke or whatever. And now you have Teen Vogue putting on these activist conferences and charging people like $700 to go. Oh my God, I cannot even. It is so ridiculously corrupt. Like, all of these media entities that have just sort of like latched onto these social justice causes to make money. And I think that's a huge part of why the leftist social movements went so awry, because all of these big media companies came in and started like saying, hey, this gets clicks and this gets views. Just say whatever outrageous, ridiculous shit you can and get people to click on this stuff. And it's inflamed all of the dialogue and discourse about this. It's made it so extreme, and it has obscured real activist voices who are not, speaking the right language or using the right discourse. And it just really makes me upset. That stuff really makes me upset.
Yeah. And I thought about, even when I was seeing your stuff and other people, I'm like, should I do Google ads? Should I do YouTube ads? Should I get sponsors? And I never thought that I'd be able to ever monetize it enough to where it would be worth having my audience feel like they were being sold to. And so I've really just never done sponsorships.
Yeah, I wish that I could do that.
Yeah.
I feel bad doing crowdfunding, because I feel like, oh, well, I don't want to like ask people for money, and I can find another job where I make enough money to support myself and try to like use that to subsidize the work that I do. But that is proving to be more challenging.
Yeah.
Days, because now it's like, oh, well, I work like 6 or 7 days a week trying to like basically be able to fund all of the projects that I don't want to do sponsorships for.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's rough. And I think that people at least now have a higher knowledge of how the whole influencer, which I hate that word, but the influencer ecosystem works. So they're more tolerant of sponsors and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just something and that's one of the reasons why I think your podcast is so interesting and important, because these are the types of topics you are covering and will be covering. You definitely have a strong social justice bent. You definitely have a lot of history in social media, and you care a lot about society and discourse and our conversation and, our collective awakening. And I love that you're trying to make a mark in the nexus of all that. I don't know who else is really doing that. So I really want that to be successful.
Thank you. I do too. I don't know if it's like a topic that people are really thinking about as much, but I certainly
it's crucial. I mean, just right now with the political discourse alone,
yeah.
but religious discourse, it's the same way.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to get better. Okay. So talk to us about, so we talked about the money, we talked about the fame a little bit, we talked about kind of the negativity. There's a clear sense in from your podcast and from things written about you and things you share, that there came a point where things started really going horribly wrong in your YouTube kind of career, but also with your mental health. And take as much time as you want on that. I don't want to rush through that. If you want to take us back to where we left off, but I'd love to hear more about the build, and then how things got more complex, and then how they started to fray.
Yeah. Well,
if you're comfortable sharing.
Sure. Yeah, of course. We've kind of talked about a lot of that stuff already.
Okay.
But
Okay. That's fine.
Through through that lens of the mental health stuff, I've always been really depressed. It's been a struggle my whole life since I was a teenager, and it was much worse when I was a teenager. I did finally get a doctor that knows what she's doing a few years ago, so I've been in a better place since then. But YouTube in general is a horrible trap for mental health, I think. And it requires people to be working 24/7. It never allows you to take a break. It never allows you to shut off. It is a recipe for disaster for anybody.
How so? Why is it so? Why isn't it just like make a video or two a week and then kind of like do an occasional speaker appearance, occasional workshop, and then just keep it kind of chill? I think I know the answer, obviously, but I want you to explain it to the audience.
Well, you get penalized for that stuff by your audience, by the algorithm, and it's hard to sustain yourself without this sort of constant push. The way the YouTube algorithm works is you need to get your watch time up. So that's why you have people who post, really long videos, 20, 30-minute long videos now, whereas old school YouTube was 2 to 3 minute videos. It was much more focused on being concise rather than expanding, which I think there are merits to both algorithms, but in general, it has created the demand for a much higher quantity of videos and stuff in order to be successful and to thrive on the platform. There's also social media, which is a constant, nonstop, drumming in the background all day, all night. And I think a lot of people struggle with how do you balance it when social media is part of your income, when it's part of your business, I guess. And so there's those elements of it. But it's also a lot of work for free upfront. So people are trying to get their channels to a point where they can monetize it. It's just a big old mess. So I think that's part of it. And I did feel some of that, like pressure to be posting a lot. But I would say the bigger problem for me was the pressure to be some sort of, this person who is not really a person, I guess, this sort of talking head for all of these topics. And, I've always been interested in feminism. I've always been interested in social justice and sexuality stuff. But there is a group of activists or people who subscribe to particular ideologies about these topics who are very authoritarian and dogmatic and act just like they act like a freaking mob, man. It's so crazy. These people are like thugs. They're running around trying to threaten people, just like trying to shut down conferences, trying to shut down this, trying to, you've seen like people talk about Antifa all the time. It's not just Antifa. There's a lot of people.
Okay, tell us what Antifa is for those of us who don't know.
Oh, God. I don't want to be the person to introduce anybody to Antifa. It's just a group of leftist activists, basically, who believe, I think one of their like taglines is by any means possible or something, where they basically think that violence is justified as long as the ends justify the means, right? That's the basic core philosophy of some of these groups.
And these are leftist extremists, right?
These are leftist people, yeah. And that's been challenging because it's easy for me to look at right-wing extremists and be like, here's what's going on here, right? But with some of the leftist extremism, I'm just like, what is going on here? Like, this is not liberal. This is extremely illiberal. These tactics, the anti-free speech, the censorship, the violent threats, this is not liberal. And yet these people are calling themselves liberal. So that the rise of those types of movements, these really extreme leftist movements, which I think was really birthed by tools like Twitter, which amplify the voices of extremists, which give them more of a space in the culture than they really occupy in reality, have accelerated a really nasty, toxic discourse. And yeah, people started bringing that stuff into my page, understandably, because I was talking about social justice stuff and talking about feminism, and it's not really the sex stuff that was the problem. Was my sharing ideas about feminism and gender equality. And oh boy,
wait! So you got attacked? You went to freaking Cal Berkeley. You're a feminist, sex positive YouTuber, and you're getting attacked on the left?
Yes, I would say.
What would the left have what beefs would the left have with you?
Well, there were a number of controversies that were made up, but there were also like people started lying about me and saying I'm alt-right and all this shit. I'm like, dude, I am a Berkeley granola girl. Like that is so far from my purview and my beliefs. It's ridiculous that anyone even believes that about me, but they do. Because someone wrote it on the internet, which is obviously the most credible source of information out there. So
people on the left started smearing you.
Yeah. One of the facilitating events was when I decided that I was going to go on conservative talk shows and have conversations with some of the prominent conservative voices, which I did. And I would say—
Which types of talk shows, which types of voices, if you're comfortable sharing?
Well, I went a bunch of people. I talked to Blair White, who is a conservative trans YouTuber. I talked to Steven Crowder, who is a conservative YouTube guy. He's been around for a while. I'm sure you've heard of him. I talked to Sargon, who had made a number of videos about me and other feminist YouTubers. There were a number of people in that land that.
And I'm sure the conservatives aren't flattering to you, right?
Are they flattering to me?
I'm sure that they weren't. I'm sure they were attacking you or criticizing you, right?
No, they did. They did criticize me. Surely, I welcome criticism. There's nothing wrong with criticism. That's how we learn things. They did not attack me. And I would say that is the distinction there. Like, you can't have a conversation if you're attacking someone, if you're lying about them, if you're, calling them names, threatening them. This is obvious to most people. That's not how you have a civil conversation. But yes, I would say, and Dave Rubin too was another one that got me a lot of flack. But yeah, I went on their shows. I talked. I shared my perspectives, which remain liberal. Well, remain feminist. Liberal feminist refers to a specific school of thought, which I'm not 100% in that camp, but fairly liberal feminist. And yeah, shared my opinions and thoughts and listened to the opinions and thoughts of people who see things very differently than me. And I think that was an important intellectual journey that I went on and am continuing to be on. And I was, reamed for that. And lost my feminist card or something. I don't know.
And how long ago was this?
A couple years ago.
And I just have to tell you, you won't have any of this history, but I've been interviewing ex-cult members of other cults, right? So ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, ex-Scientologists, ex-Orthodox Jews. And without fail, every activist that I've talked to so far said that their worst opposition didn't come from the other side of the aisle. It came from the fellow activists within their domain that shared their general ideology.
Oh, yeah.
The most
100%.
ferocious, the most dishonest, the most disingenuous, the most destructive, toxic came from what we call friendly fire.
I 100% agree with that. It is the nastiest stuff I've ever seen on the internet. And it is coming from people who I agree with. And that has caused a little bit of an existential crisis for me. Am I agreeing with the wrong things? And what is going on here? It's a real head scratcher. And it's something that I haven't really wrapped my head around. I don't understand. I mean, I think there's a lot of toxic, stupid shit in like all political communities entirely. But for me personally, like it's definitely been the most tumultuous with my own folks. Like we're fighting for the same things, dude. We are out here and have been out here for over a decade. So what is going on? I don't understand it.
Was it mostly fellow feminist or progressive YouTubers that were attacking you?
My critics are, Yep. It's mostly the progressives. Like most of my friends now are conservative on YouTube. And like, I disagree with them vehemently on a lot of stuff, but not everything. Like we both agree that like the state of discourse is awful. They tend to be more liberal than people think they are. They're in favor of a lot of the same things. We want some of the same things, not all of the same things, but some, enough to find common ground, and to try to make some movement on how we should be talking about and engaging with these things.
Yeah. And so the only way I can make sense of that, and I know this is reductionist, but the only way I can make sense of that is just jealousy and envy. It's like, if you happen to get in early into a social media space, and by the way, people don't see the years and years and years you give getting nothing for it, sacrificing incredible things. But once you hit that hockey stick spike or whatever, and you start to get noticed, you start to become, the only way I can make sense of it is the friendly fire is just, there's other people that think they're smarter. They probably are smarter. They think they're more woke. They think they're more wise. They've got their own brand of whatever it is they've got. And they hate you for the fact that they have not had the voice or the views or the downloads or the clicks or the donations that you have. I don't know how else to make sense of it.
I mean, I'm sure that's some of it. And that is, pardon my French, but fucking stupid.
Yeah.
That is really dumb and petty and immature. Grow up, dude. There's plenty of space on the internet for everyone.
Right.
If your whole brand or your whole motive is to just try to attack and tear other people down, get a life. Yeah. Do something useful, Maybe start up an educational series and try to reach people.
Yeah,
Jeez.
Exactly.
What's wrong with people?
Yeah, and sometimes, but the other thing I've noticed is my biggest enemies and critics, and by the way, I've been accused publicly on the internet of really horrific things, like things, things that are just zero basis of truth at all. Like,
Yeah.
but things that would put someone in prison, things that are like against everything I stand for. But there's always this paradox of, if you respond to it, then you're giving it what they want, which is clicks and attention.
Mm-hmm.
And you're building the story by responding.
Yeah.
But then if you don't respond, then you're accused of hiding something or of being guilty by silence.
Yeah.
And
God, yes.
And so you
can't win.
What?
Can't win. There is no winning.
Yeah. And so you just see, like, I really did get into this to help people. I went how many years, not just like not making money, but sacrificing, for me, 6-figure salaries over multiple years.
Yeah.
Now that we're starting to have impact along the mission of why we started, really reaching people want to not just harm what you do, but destroy you as a person,
mm-hmm.
tear everything down. And you really, it's not just like, oh my gosh, my podcast may not do well. It's like, I may never be able to work again. It's, you think about, because the level of publicity you reach, the fall, if the fall is as big as the rise, you could end up nothing. You could end up wanting to die because of people believe all the rumors, and your whole hireability is destroyed. Where do you go? Now, I'm sorry I've been talking so much. I'm venting.
No, please.
Because I'm connecting with so much of what I've heard you talk about. Now, will you take over and give your side of it?
Well, I 100% agree with you, John. I think it's really bullshit. And I feel all the same things you're feeling. I think that it can really do a number on people emotionally, and has done a number on me emotionally, trying to like deal with the fact that so many people have decided to lie about me, to spread those lies, to believe those lies, things that are just blatantly not true at all. It really has made me feel like a lot of people are not good people. And it's made me feel like social media is a tool for bad people to exploit and use, to divide us, to ruin people, to exert power over people that they don't like, they don't agree with, whatever it may be. And yeah, it's been really hard feeling like I've always just tried my best. I've always just tried to do right by the people that I was trying to reach, and never intend to hurt anyone, never intend to oppress anyone. It's just, I'm trying to do what I think is right. And being told by stupid online rags who are trying to get clicks about you, and people who use your name to bolster their own status and their own brand, is really nasty, and has definitely been the biggest contributor to me being like, bye, I'm out. I can't, I don't want to be in this environment. It's not worth it to me. And part of it is just that I felt like I was, good. Like I had made so many videos about that stuff that I was kind of getting tired of the topic anyway. But I just didn't really see a way forward for myself that didn't end in me completely imploding. And I had to take almost a whole year off this last year to try to, get back into a better place mental health wise, and to try to figure out how to feel like I have purpose and meaning in this world when there's so many people telling me like, I'm making things horrible for them.
I'm so sorry.
Sorry, it's bringing out more feelings than I thought I would have. I spent a lot of time just like pushing down.
Yeah.
I think people need to realize like the people you watch online are real people. And, they're not just faces on a screen. They have lives. They have wants and dreams and things that they think are important in the world. And especially with people who are trying to do something good online, like, I'll never understand tearing down someone who's trying to do something good. It doesn't make sense in my mind. And maybe I've participated in some of that in the past when I was an idiot and, made some mistakes along the way. But in general, I've really tried to be more cognizant about the experiences that people who are making things online are having and the effect that this crazy world, this loud, digital world we live in has on them. And I don't think there's enough support. I think a lot of people feel alone and they feel like they're the only ones experiencing this. They're the only ones who are struggling. And that's part of why I made Indirect Message, because I want to let people know they're not and really have a conversation about that.
I'm really, really appreciative of your vulnerability and your candor. Gustavo says, I wish I could give Laci a hug. That's
Oh, is that?
That's just
that
one of the
Gustavo,
commenters.
one of my internet friends.
That's Gustavo Gonzalez. It's just one of the commenters on Facebook. If it's okay, so I just so resonate. For the people that have attacked me most, it were people whose voices, whose own creative projects weren't getting traction. And at some point, they just realized that if they bring my name up, if they invoke me, that's guaranteed to stir up a hornet's nest, and they'll get all the clicks and the likes. And I do think
that's so sad if that's what's going on. I really don't want to believe that people will do that, but
in their minds, I think they really are fighting for some important cause. I just wonder if they've really done the math to understand the net effect of us when we're going up against so much money, so much power, so much influence. It's so hard for us to be tearing each other down when we're all just barely scrambling. There's no way I'll ever make back the money I gave up to do this, because I was making $200,000 a year at Microsoft in 2004, right? If I had stayed there for 10 years instead of like 9 years of grad school, I'd be freaking retired by now. I'll never make that money back. I will never make that money back. But people don't care. They're like, oh, now you're making a living, so I must destroy you, even though we're on the same team. Let me ask you this. So some of these, let's just say there was a coach going back to Laci 2 or 3 years ago, and a lot of this friendly fire, these progressives that are attacking you, what makes you care about them so much? So like a glib counselor would say, Laci, you're and oh, by the way, how many people want 1.4 million subscribers on YouTube? Like that's half of America's dream right now. And so there's a group of people to be like, Laci, come on, you reached it, you arrived. Ignore the losers, ignore the critics, just keep doing what you're doing. That's one strain of a question that I have. And then the other strain is like, on a personal note, what made it so it was so hard to just tune out the negative voices?
I think it just became too many. Like when mainstream media outlets started publishing lies about me, that was when I was like, I can't go up against this. Like, and I don't have the energy to fight, because the whole time I've been on YouTube has felt like a fight. It's felt like struggling with all my own demons. And at that point, it just felt too big. It was like, okay, if this is who you want me to be, I'm out. I can't I don't want to spend my whole life fighting with this idea or this, narrative that people are trying to push about me. It's hurtful. It's exhausting. And it really, I struggle with my mental health when everything's great. I feel unexplained sadness and a desire to just peace out of the world on a very constant basis. And so having all of this shit on top of it, I personally don't have the strength. Some people do. And, I hope those people prevail, and I'm, rooting for them. But I don't. And especially knowing, like, I don't want to be a media person. I don't like making videos. I don't like having to feel like I'm a spokesperson for anything. I just started to think, well, okay, all this stuff's happening, and I could fight and keep, duking it out with these people at great personal cost. Or I could just move on and do something that makes me happy and isn't constant fighting, isn't constant combativeness, constant chaos and conflict. I can't deal with that. I can't deal with it. I don't know how people do. Their personalities are very drawn to conflict. The people who do well in this sphere, the people who keep going, they're okay with the conflict. They like the conflict. I don't, and I can't. And I think there's a point where you have to just recognize this is the type of person I am. This is what I need to be happy, and constantly duking it out with the internet, trying to, I don't know, have my own narrative is not worth it. It's not worth it.
So
no amount of money is worth it.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. I don't know what I'd be like if I hadn't found Mormon stories, but generally I feel like I've had pretty good mental health. I've never been prone to debilitating anxiety, and I've never been prone to heavy depression like maybe my dad. But I have had suicidal ideation as a podcaster, especially in the past few years when people that used to be close friends started coming at me with life-ending lies. And
oh no!
So I mean,
people you know.
Oh yeah. It's always people that I championed, people that I was supportive of, people that I helped, people whose careers I supported. But here's the thing. What I'm saying is, I'm so dripping with privilege, Laci. Like, I'm 6'6". I had a successful career before this. We were able to put a little bit of money into savings, and I'm married, and I've got 4 kids, and I've got my parents support me, and my siblings love me, and I'm a white heterosexual, straight cisgender male, right? And I'm 50, so but the thing is, nobody gives a crap if you've been successful at something. Nobody cares about that. They're not going to have any sympathy for you because you've been successful. You've achieved what so many of them wanted to. It reminds me of Judy Garland and freaking every rock star that's ever existed. Those people are never going to get any pity, but in some ways we destroyed them because that's what happened. You just look at it. Michael Jackson, Prince, Whitney Houston, Kurt Cobain. I could list 50 famous people that all died from drug addictions because the public scrutiny can be so punishing. And what I'm really trying to say is, I can't imagine trying to do this as a 19-year-old single queer female that. I barely have survived it.
Well, I don't think that. I do think there are privileges, obviously, but I also think, in some ways, excusing yourself from the reality of those feelings is similar to the way we excuse celebrities from those feelings. It doesn't matter what your identity is. People feel and people hurt, and the maybe in the big picture, yes, white men, are on average, they're going to have an easier time with this stuff, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't really, really mess people up. And the same goes for celebrities, for YouTube influencers, for anybody who has any sort of public persona. I think that people are dehumanize and forget, the way that people were talking to me and the way that people have talked to me has always felt do you not realize, would you talk to me this way if I was right in front of you? Would you still speak to me and call and say these things, or would you even feel these things if I was right in front of you? And I think there's like a layer of removal that happens, and maybe part of it, as you seem to be saying, is a layer of envy or feeling threatened or insecure about what other people do with their lives. But, even so, that seems like something that people should be able to easily recognize. Like, okay, well, I want to be a YouTuber or something. I don't understand why that thought or want goes to, okay, I'm going to be abusive and horrible to other people in my pursuit of this. Like, that line does not make sense to me, and is very depressing, because it's like people might be doing a lot of this stuff without even realizing it. Like, they so lack the self-awareness.
Right.
And those people are the ones who are most likely to succeed. And that's not good.
Yeah.
You don't want the sociopaths to always be
king
the
of the
ones
hill, right?
God, it's awful.
So, so I have to read some of the comments some of our listeners are writing to you. So Angela N.O. was in grad school with me. I love Angela. She, like you, figured Mormonism out as a teen and left. And she's also she has a Native American background, and so she's dealt with a lot of the racism and a lot of that cultural stuff that's just punishing. But she's one of the wisest, kindest, smartest people I know. She writes, Laci, I loved your videos, and I think the voices of the trolls were just louder than the voices of many of your many fans. Don't forget about all the good you do, and don't lose sight of the fact that many people do support you. Ivana writes, for one troll, there's 10,000 people that love you. And then my own nephew, I love my nephew, John Faust. He writes, I discovered your videos a few years ago. I really appreciated the early philosophy videos. They helped me figure out the early stages of my own Mormon faith crisis. But a lot of these people are kind of saying the same thing. And I think this is true. And this is true for me, and I'm certain it's true for you, and I want to get your take on it. For me, the positive comments and emails and everything is like 1,000 to 1 negative.
Yeah,
what was your ratio? What?
I don't have a ratio, but I would say, about 90% of the stuff I would see online was really cruel. And so, to this day, I am still...
90% was cruel?
Yes.
That's freaking YouTube.
Yeah, that's YouTube.
That is YouTube and Twitter. That's why I don't pay attention to YouTube comments, never have.
Yeah.
And I've stopped doing Twitter.
Yeah, YouTube and Twitter, but Facebook was really bad too. People spread all kinds of posts about me on Facebook. Yeah. My Facebook community became really toxic. People kept trying to accuse me of being transphobic when all I've done is champion trans rights online for years. Like, these people just have no idea. Like, they don't have no idea how I actually think about these things or feel. And that side of the feminist conversation just completely took over my Facebook.
So you had a Facebook group?
Yeah, I have a Facebook page, and it's still up. I have had someone go through and curate a lot of that stuff so that I don't have to see it, because, it really was so bad. Like, there was very little positive that I was seeing online, and it conditioned me. I started having like heart palpitations and getting panic attacks every time I would even open Facebook or Twitter. And so that's when I decided to take a break off of social media, because I was having this extreme sort of conditioning to have a really bad fight or flight response every time I would go into the internet and into social media apps. So I still have some of that, but I've taken steps, and I'm working toward having a more positive response to social media, but I don't know if I'll ever fully get rid of like my heart racing every time I go on Twitter. That's why I've kind of like taken a break from a lot of the topics that draw out really intense people, because I need to like give my literal like physical system a chance to calm down, I guess, from all of this.
It's kind of like PTSD, right? It's like
it feels, yes. And my therapist that I saw briefly, that I'm not seeing anymore, but had diagnosed me with PTSD from some of the stuff that happened, not just from social media, but people had made violent physical threats toward me at conferences and threatened to kill me. And then the police, like, it's just this big mess. But, you know, I basically went to a talk and the police told me they can't ensure that nobody will bring any weapons in. And then there was a really loud, scary outburst. And I thought someone was going to like shoot up one of the conferences I was at. It's just like this constant stress response that was happening in my body. You know, no amount of intellectualizing and wanting to go forward could compete with these responses that I was having in my body from these experiences. And so, yeah, I mean, yes, it's Twitter and YouTube, but I think it's just the internet as a whole. And you guys are right. Like, yes, it's a minority of voices, but on my feed and in my world, it is not a minority of voices. It is most of the voices. And I'm not sure I or anybody really has the tools to persevere through years of that.
Yeah, it's brutal. So when did it come to a head where you're like reaching the pinnacle of your success and you're like, I'm shutting it all down? Like that, I've reached that point 50 times or more. How did it culminate for you? Like when and what was that like of like, oh my gosh, this is my livelihood. I've built this. I'm doing really well at it. And so now it's time to shut it all down with who knows what as an alternative, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've always had other ideas for what I wanted to do. So I didn't feel so lost. It wasn't like, oh God,
Okay.
This is like the career that I've always wanted. It wasn't. It kind of happened.
So you had some savings though, because financially, right?
Yes, I did have savings,
Okay.
and I've continued to work. I work offline. Most of my stuff is offline.
Like a day job?
No, not a day job. It's like project based.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. The skills that I have in this sphere, in social media, internet stuff, have broad applications. So
you can do YouTube consulting, for example.
Yes, I have stable work outside of all of this.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
Yeah. Well, I saw that coming. I was like, first YouTube demonetized my whole channel. That was in 2017, but I was prepared before that even, because my videos were slowly being like demonetized. I saw YouTube becoming a place where it might not be a reliable source of income anymore. And so I got my insurance policy in line and have never, had to worry about having a roof over my head. So I'm fortunate in that sense. But yeah,
Okay, so YouTube demonetize. Why would they, if the videos are up and people are watching them, why would they ever demonetize you?
Because I talk about sex.
Oh,
yeah, it's the sex stuff.
Sex positivity.
Yeah.
Freaking YouTube.
YouTube's not a sex positive place. And they demonetized a lot of LGBT stuff, and there's a lawsuit going, and it became a battle zone. And I knew that it was going to become a battle zone when that started happening. I also deliberately planned ahead before I started going on the conservative talk shows, because I knew that something was going to happen. With that. Did I expect it to be as explosive and crazy as it was? No, I didn't expect it to be at that level, but I did plan ahead because I knew people are going to be probably mad. Some people are going to be mad at me for doing this, and who knows what that'll spiral into, because internet.
Yeah. So you thoughtfully develop some side parallel income streams and career
Yes.
opportunities.
Yes.
That's so great. I honestly don't. I mean, I got my PhD in psychology, so I do some coaching for couples and individuals. But it's not what I really. I mean, I love it. I love it when I do it, but it's not what I want to do for my full time job. So I
Do you want
actually
to do
don't.
the podcast full time?
Well, I am. I do. I've been able to do it full time now
Oh,
for
okay.
several years.
It's the main gig.
But that's just the only thing I'm saying is if and when that gets torpedoed, you know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know what I do as a side as a new career. I don't know. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't get into psychology to become a psychologist. I just wanted to be able to help the people that came to me.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be a full-time psychologist. So I haven't even pursued licensure. So
That's very noble of you. I think that you have a little bit more protection from all of this because I think that in communities that are more critical about religion tend to have more critical thinking than some of these leftist social movements. Like that isn't really built into the discourse in the way that someone who has really had to grapple with their faith, I think they're more intimately familiar with what dogma and authoritarianism look like and feel like. They recognize that more readily, and also are able to more engage more in a more reasonable way with people who disagree with them, because they have had to be, like, we as leading the church have had to be that person. And so I wonder and hope that, you know, I hope nothing ever comes your way that is this kind of storm. But if it does, I would hope that because of the things you talk about in the community that you've cultivated, it might correct its course a little more than some of this other stuff does, you know?
I do have amazing, and this isn't me being flattering, but the in 2000 and even 2019, the level of effort it takes to leave uh, a religion like Mormonism, Jehovah's Witness, Scientologist, if you can escape the intellectual, emotional, familial, and social chains that an Orthodox religion like Mormonism, holds you with,
Yeah.
you emerge a pretty. Those people either are pretty amazing before, or they become amazing through that gauntlet of a journey.
Yeah.
And
I
so
agree.
I
It's,
I do everywhere I go when I meet my listeners. It's just like, these are my people. These are
oh,
I just want to hang with these people all the time. And my podcasts are so freaking long that if you're not really into the stuff, you wouldn't bother listening to them. And so that's another thing I've done different is I go long form. Like I just finished like a 14-hour series with the guy, one single interview over 3 days, 14 hours, because I just want to go deep. I don't have
yeah.
any patience for sound bites and superficial kind of surface stuff. And yours
Yeah.
is deep. So I'm not, your economy is way better than mine, but
Well, I want to be more in the direction that you have taken things, like smaller community, but deeper dives, more connected community. Because right now I feel like I'm kind of trying to reestablish a community with IDM, with Indirect Message, and just trying to find my community online that I used to have before everything got crazy. And, just have that, because for my own personal pleasure and enjoyment, because I miss that. I miss having an online community. And I think YouTube, in some ways, that was one of the prices I paid, was the community got too big to really have that same intimate feel. And so, yes, I love meeting people when I'm out on the road or whatever. I don't necessarily feel like these are my people with everyone that I've met. Um, Part of that is because they're often younger than me. So the audience for my series before I ended it was often like teenagers. Teenagers are not my people. I want to be their people, but they're not necessarily my people, right? Like, I want to support them, but I don't think they have the wherewithal or maturity or bandwidth to be a support system for me. So finding that again, that's a new journey that I'm on. And I like that journey because I think it goes to a much better place. I hope it goes to a better place.
Yeah. Wow. So you in what you said 2 years ago, 2017, you just stopped YouTubing?
Oh, no, 2017 was when I was like, listen, I need to engage with these conservatives that are constantly making videos about me.
Okay.
Some of them aren't even conservative, but just like anti-feminist people, like people from all over the spectrum, really, that were constantly just barraging me with anger. I was like, look, I need to like have a way to address these issues publicly. And so I'm going to go on their channels and, we're going to debate stuff. And we did. And yeah, that was in 2017. And then the fallout from that was when I decided, fuck this shit on that. I really cannot do this, guys. I really can't win, and I'm very sad all the time. So I have to go to my happy place.
So that was last year.
That was 2018. I was like, okay, yeah.
So what was that like to just end it?
Well, it was great.
Really?
Oh yeah, hell yeah. I didn't have to worry about the internet. I logged off for a year.
Did you really?
Yeah.
You just stopped checking comments and what about emails?
Nada. Nothing. Really?
But it seems like that would like cause like withdrawal, like internet withdrawal.
No, I mean, this was like a cage I was trying to escape. I didn't have Stockholm syndrome.
You wanted out.
I wanted out, yeah. And I wanted to be able to create a internet community that felt more positive. For me, like, I don't feel like, I still feel like there are things that I want to do and ways that I want to contribute to the world. I also feel like, okay, like I did a lot and I made a lot of personal sacrifices. So it's okay if now is more about me and my interests. That's how I justified it. And that's why Indirect Message is maybe so different from other stuff I've done online, because it's more about what I think about and what I feel.
So that you actually left saying, man, this is going to be great. And you left and you felt great leaving.
Yeah. I felt great leaving, and I felt a little bit tepid about coming back, but since I've been back, I came back online in September.
Wait, I just have to say, it is so, I don't normally swear, not because I'm like opposed to swearing, but I'm still very Mormon. It is so badass for you to be at like 1.5 million subscribers and to just walk away. Like,
is it?
Well, I mean, when you don't, from someone who wouldn't understand, and you're doing it by choice. I know you're choosing health, which is just awesome, but like I can imagine. I mean, my situation is a tiny bit different because like I don't think I've gotten near the negativity that you have, and in spite of all the horrible things, still the good has way outweighed the bad for me. And so I really like it when a lot of people listen to my stuff. I like it when I feel like I'm making a difference in the world. Like I got into this to make a difference in the world. So I feel like I don't want to say ego, but my sense of self-esteem or my sense of like feeling good about contributing, my sense of meaning and purpose, it really now is interwoven with my podcast and the workshops and retreats that I do. So if I like walked away from all that, I'd be like, who am I? Like, what is my purpose? Why? And if I had to go back just to make money, I feel kind of broken in that way. I don't think I could ever go work for a software company selling widgets or SKUs or whatever it is. So yeah, for me, I think that'd be super hard, but I don't know. I'm sure I would love it. on many levels. So
Well, you
that's
have
why I
to also
say,
keep in mind, I didn't just like go work in a different industry. I still teach sex
yeah.
ed and I
Oh,
still
okay.
do a lot of sexual health stuff.
Oh, okay.
Just
Okay.
not online.
Got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Got it.
So I still feel all those things. If I
Okay.
had to leave behind the world of sexual health completely and have no involvement, yes, I would be very lost, and would not know where to go next. I have pondered that question. That's part of why I started going back to school to become a nurse practitioner. And for a while, I was on the women's health nurse prac route, and then kind of like had some doubts or second guessing myself on that decision, and started looking more into the PhD academic route. So I've had to think about like, okay, what would my life be without any of this? And I've, come up with a few answers to that question. But none of them are so scary to me. I think a lot of what's scary about those life changes is that it's so different. And that I would worry that I had made a mistake, by walking away, being weak, not being strong enough to endure.
Because you don't want
What
to
does
let
it
the
say
haters
about
win,
me?
right? You don't want to let the haters win by
Yeah.
hating, right?
Yeah, it's true.
But if you're not well,
You have to walk away. And I
yeah,
think that there is something that's maybe a little bit toxic about the idea that, you have to keep going in order to prove these people
yeah,
wrong.
of
It sort
course,
of
of
keeps
course,
you in this trap.
yeah.
And I think I bought into that for a while, but it's like at some point it's like, no, I don't have to keep going. This feels like an abusive relationship. Do I have to keep going to prove my love to this person who constantly is abusive to me? No,
Right,
I can walk away and I
right.
should walk away. And so I'm going to do what I need to do, secure myself financially, emotionally, and physically, and get the fuck out.
Okay, so your time away was super healthy for you.
Yeah.
And tell us about your non-internet projects that you would want to talk about. So I saw something with MTV, but that was YouTube, right?
Yeah. I would rather not talk about what I do offline.
Okay, that's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
But so it's not something you uh so you don't want people, like, it's not like you're trying to get business or marketing for any of whatever it is you do. It's
Nope.
something you want to keep private.
Yes.
That's cool.
I don't want the hate mob to come from my jobs. And if I
Right.
tell them
Got
where
it.
I
Got it.
work,
Got it.
then all the people I work with are very well aware of everything that's happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I have, strong relationships with the people that I work with and the projects I work on, and they know me and they know my heart and intentions, and they see that every day.
You're like in an internet witness protection program is what
I
you
am.
are.
Yes.
I love that. And there's like a body that's taking care of you and taking your good work, but also like taking an interest in your health and well-being.
Yes, I feel very fortunate that I've found this loophole that allows me to do this.
Okay, because you did say you're still involved in sex education. That's why I was asking about it, because obviously I'm like, well, what are you doing? But I'm
Part of it is sex ed. Yeah.
okay. That's great. Okay.
Yeah. Part of
Okay.
it is very
So
not sex ed. So, like I
what's
said,
that?
part of it is very not sex ed. And
Right.
I think it's worth noting to anybody who's out there who has a podcast or has a YouTube channel who might be watching, there are so many things you can do that are not YouTube if you are being driven to madness. There is a lot that those skills are applicable in many ways. You just have to kind of seek it out and figure out where the fit is for you. But it does exist, and not being able to do YouTube or something, if they demonetize you or whatever the case may be, is not the end of the world. There's still more work and things to do.
So let's say some 19-year-old boy or girl comes to you over a latte and they're like, just tell me all that I need to know to become a successful YouTuber. I'm sure you probably have that all the time. Are there things you tell people? Don't do it? Or
I do try to caution people who are seeking YouTube fame, Why are you doing this? Why do you want this? What are you hoping to get out of it? Because YouTube, only about 1%, maybe less, find real success on YouTube. So you need to really want it and know what your goals are. What are you getting out of it that is not money? Because there won't be money for a long time, probably. Most people, it takes a while to monetize. So are you really doing it for the right reasons? A, are you willing to put in all of this free work up front to build on the possibility that you will have something you can monetize later? B, and I also think that people should think about their support systems in their life, and think about, the internet's going to be shitty to you sometimes. It will be cruel. You will doubt yourself. You will feel worthless, and people will make you feel worse than you ever have. Take high school bullying and turn it up 100%. It is going to be bad. It comes for everybody. So what are you going to do then? Are you emotionally prepared? Do you have a support system? You should have a therapist. You have a good friend that you can confide in. You should have people around you that you can rely on, because you don't know when it's going to happen, but you will probably need them at some point.
Yeah, I could not have survived without my wife, who's amazing. And we've spent thousands of dollars annually on therapy. Marriage therapy.
Seems like a good expense.
And I'm a therapist, right? In theory, thousands of dollars individually, as a couple, for our children, for our family system. Like, I'm a huge believer in effective coaching or therapy.
That's awesome. I really admire that. I think that is like one of the most important investments you can make, investing in your mental health, especially if you're in a kind of precarious, unstable position, because that's what podcasting is by nature. Any media thing, it's not stable. It's always a big question mark.
And you said you've found some good mental health resources, right?
Well, kind of. I've had a doctor who has been a good doctor. I have not found a therapist in LA. I had a really great therapist when I lived in Berkeley, and I'm kind of thinking about moving back to Berkeley, and she's part of it. Like, I need you, help. Yeah, so I've had good therapists in the past, but have not found.
She doesn't do like Skype or Zoom.
That's a good question. And she's kind of old school, she's older, and that doesn't mean she's not going to be savvy, but I never saw that like potential in her practice. Maybe though.
Okay. Well, tell us about your book, and tell us about, I assume you still want people to buy your book, and tell us about your amazing podcast, Indirect Message.
Yeah, well, I wrote the book. It's a sex ed book. I saw it as kind of like the final, the master project of Sex Plus. So there's all these videos, and the book really allowed me to go deeper on some of those topics in sexuality and shame and healthy relationships, things like that. And I think it's a really good resource. I'm really proud of it. I think it's good for young adults, for older adults who are more experienced. I think they can still, there's stuff that's not just like, here's how your penis works or whatever in there. There's stuff to think about. So I tried to cater it to everyone. And then the podcast is more about the internet and like how the internet is changing everything. But mostly our social relationships. So I've been focusing this season. I have been looking really at the big picture stuff, about social media mobs, about the ways that people are just Googling their illnesses and the rise of the anti-vax movement, memes, and kind of how meme culture has affected politics, all kinds of stuff that's big picture. But my hope is that in the next season, if it gets renewed, which I'll probably, I got to figure it out, but I want to talk more about some of these more specific issues in relationships and sexuality as they relate to the internet. So starting big and hoping to distill.
I love it. Yeah, it is a really smart and important podcast.
Thank you. That's really sweet of you.
And I love it. and listeners need to check it out. LaciGreen.tv/podcast is where you can find Indirect Message with Laci Green. And it's kind of more highly produced, kind of like Radio Lab or whatever, right? You've got,
my
audio
inspiration
clips
is
and,
it's more NPR-y,
yeah,
I would say. But we'll see. It's evolving and figuring it out as I go. I've only done 4, so, I'm sure that where you're at now with your podcast is in a different place than the first 4.
Well, I did have a 14-year head start.
Yeah. It's a few podcasts, You've done a few.
That's awesome. Okay. Is there anything else I didn't ask you that you really want to say, or, anything else we didn't cover? And then I always like to have you just share whatever final kind of thoughts. Really quickly, just back to the Mormon angle. Do you keep tabs on the Mormon Church and its latest prophet, its latest policy changes? Like,
Mm-hmm.
Are you at all plugged into what Mormonism's doing?
I'm plugged in. Yeah.
You are?
Yeah, my family's still Mormon.
So your 2 siblings are still Mormon?
Oh no, my extended family, and my dad. My siblings are not Mormon anymore. My mom is not Mormon, but I definitely keep track of what they're doing and what's going on. And it's not necessarily like in my direct area of focus, but yeah, it's a part of my life. And I feel like I need to know what the word is. I'm a little slower on the uptake though, I get updated every few months.
Yeah.
Things that are happening.
Instead of swimming in it every day, all day.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what, as you've looked at like the church becoming more transparent in its history and rolling back the November 2015 policy around, excluding children of LGBT couples and all that. If you look at how it's tried to be more open about women, just making sure church shorter, like that's my view. Like, whoa, the church is actually starting to listen and make some positive changes, and it still has a long way to go. How do you see Mormonism in 2019? Is it like worse than ever? Is it like you're hopeful? Is it like apathetic? Is it like a train wreck? How do you view Mormonism now?
Mormonism, well, I'm not the biggest fan. So
what are the biggest things you would like? What are your biggest concerns and things you'd want to see changed
in the Mormon Church?
Yeah.
God, why are you asking me this, John?
Because this is Mormon stories.
I mean, can we change the whole religion? I mean, socially, I think it would be great if they started having more female leaders, period. That would be great. And allowing girls to achieve their potential and be who they want to be outside of the church, loosening up the leash a little bit on young adults and especially on young women. And, maybe not being homophobic and transphobic and awful to our LGBT youth. That is unforgivable in my book. So that's why I'm like, the whole thing's trash. Just throw it away. But maybe if they were better in that respect, I would have a different feeling about it.
Not a lot of love lost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. People in their 20s are just leaving in droves. Like people in their 20s and 30s are just hemorrhaging. The church is completely hemorrhaging entire generations right now.
Really?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I didn't.
And that's not just Mormonism. That's Christianity in the Western world, right? That's
organized religion this is not its heyday, let's say.
Okay.
The internet has changed a lot.
So I saw that you sometimes attend a Unitarian Universalist church. Is that right?
That is right. Yes.
So how have you built up a sense of identity, morality, spirituality, community without Mormonism, or have you? Or are you still searching for those things?
I'm still a deeply immoral person. So No, I think that being a good person for the most part is not that hard. Do no harm is the
Kind.
basic principle I operate on. Yeah. Be kind, do no harm. The Unitarian churches, I would say, as far as organized religions go, the best one I've ever found. I really love, the one I go to, I don't go very often, but when I do have like a, Sunday morning free and I pop in, they're always talking about different moral philosophies. It's very queer positive, very, woman positive. And, the leaders of the church are not just a bunch of dudes. It's a lot of people working together as it should be. So I like that. And they're all very kind. It's also, I think there's a lot of families that go to the one I go to. So I think it's like a good support system. I think that there is like a real need for parents to have community around them. It's really hard raising kids now. I think it's just like really, we don't support parents very well. And the loss of organized religion is a real loss on that front because, all the things I have to say about Mormonism, that all aside, they helped my mom when she gave birth to my brother. They brought us meals, that we always had like a place to go. There was always people there, to help you move, to help you when you're sick in the hospital, whatever it was, they were always there. And that's beautiful. I think that's the most beautiful thing about Mormon religion. And I wish that more communities were kind of trying to replicate that. And I think some communities are. There's a community in LA. Gosh, I forget the name of it, but it's like an atheist church.
So it's probably Sunday Assembly.
Sunday Assembly,
Yeah.
yes. And I love that. I've gone to that a couple times and the Unitarian church a couple times. So I think that's their strength, is really for families.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you heard me talk about this Thrive idea at the very beginning.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that offline, but I would love to go to that. That sounds amazing.
Oh, well, we'd love to have you. I'll tell you all about it, but it's just, I've been a part of Sunday Assembly a little bit. There's another one called Oasis. For the past 14 years, I've been trying to create or at least support and experiment on secular post-Mormon communities here in Utah and around the world. So we're trying. It's hard to get people to give up their Sundays, but even more importantly, why should people give up their Sundays? That's just because religion did that doesn't mean that's the right model. But
Sure.
Then what is the right model? If you don't have fear, guilt, and shame and exclusive truth and sort of like moral superiority to bind people together and to get people to give money and time, then how do you motivate people to want to commit and sacrifice for a community, when they could stay home and sip a latte? It's really hard to compete with latte and sleeping in and
Netflix.
brunch.
Yeah. Well, if my experience has taught me anything, it's that people love to come together over activities and things that, give them a little break from real life. So, potlucks are always fun because it's fun to have dinner with people and feel like you're having a family dinner, but also just activities, getting outside. I don't know how to motivate people to get off their sofas. Like, good luck with that. But I think in general, offering something that is a little different from the drawl of day to day definitely gets me out of the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'd love to have you at Thrive. We'd love to talk to you about what we're doing. Listeners, thrivebeyondmormonism.com is the website.
Cool.
So it's all positive, but November 17th, if you want to come, we've got 1,000 people. We've never had an event with over 300 people. We've got 1,000 people signed up for this event. So
that's amazing. Congrats.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Okay. So Laci Green, I want to end with this. In addition to whatever sort of like monologue or prologue or epilogue or whatever it is you want to offer, I want to tell you that you are a light. You are a source of wisdom. You have done a lot of good in the world for a crap ton of people. And I was sad when I didn't know the background. I thought you left just sort of like broken and sad and unhappy. I'm thrilled to know you left to pursue healing, and that's exactly what's happened. And I'm also thrilled, for as long as you are willing and able, that you're still willing to share your light and your wisdom and your energy and your passion with us, because we need you and we need people like you for as long as it's healthy for you to share.
Oh, that is so sweet. Thank you. That means a lot. That's why I'm back. And I think there are good people online like yourself, your communities like this all over the web. They're out there. And so it's good to be reminded. And I'm really, really grateful that you invited me to join you. Yeah. And just as far as like closing thoughts, I don't know. I don't know that there's anything that I can say to your community specifically that you don't already know or aren't already thinking about. But I think if my story can serve as, to be helpful in any way, like if you're getting down, the internet's really getting you down and you're up against a lot and you feel really defeated, I would just reinforce that it's okay to take a step back and take a break and do what you need to do to take care of yourself. If you are not in a good place, you can't be your best. You can't do your best. And it's really scary if you feel like there's something that you've built, like my channel or whatever. Yes, it's scary to walk away from the things that we've been working on, but self-preservation should come first. It is very important. And there are lots of other things that are out there, other opportunities that might come to you that never would have if you hadn't kind of strayed from the path that you feel like you're supposed to be on or have to be on. I don't know if that makes any sense outside of our context, but it's been very impactful to me, and I think has made me a stronger person, and has led to great things in my life, not necessarily career-wise, but the best relationship of my life, and being in a positive mental health space, building my friendships, focusing on those relationships as well. So there's a lot of good that can come from that. So take care of yourselves. I think that's my biggest lesson learned online.
I love it. But I also love that you had the courage to speak up and to try and make a difference. And you did make a huge difference, and you are making a huge difference. And those are people I have a special heart for, people that have a creative idea and they go for it. And you made a mark, and you'll always have my respect for that.
Thank you.
And you keep it going.
Keep it going.
Yeah, listeners are all, Angela writes, love learning. She wrote, agree with John. It was great to see you again. Amy writes, love learning about you. Laci. Ivana writes, Laci, you have a good heart. Lots of people sending you love on the Facebook live stream.
That's very, very sweet. This has been really wonderful. Thank you for this nice little boost at the beginning of my week. Your community is very sweet. It's nice to know there are kind communities online.
Yeah, we have a super cool community. And if we can ever be of any assistance to you, if we can, you've got us in your corner for sure.
Thank you. Well, hopefully I'll see you again. If you guys are doing conferences and stuff, I'm there.
All right, sweet.
Sounds fun.
So I will reach out to you offline and we'll sync up on that.
Cool. That sounds amazing.
The podcast is lacigreen.tv/podcast. The podcast is called Indirect Message with Laci Green. It really is. And I just also have to say, we need, I've had to, I'm sorry, I'm just saying one more thing. The being in the post-Mormon space can be really toxic and polarizing because obviously the church does good, but it also does harm. We've already covered that. But then to try and fight against the church, even if you're trying to do good, it can create so much toxicity just in always feeling like you're going to war. And when you think about the current political climate and the divisiveness in politics, there's just so much war. And what I love about what you're doing, and I think what you've always done, is you're trying to elevate the discourse.
Yeah.
That
takes all of us.
We are effed if we don't elevate the discourse. Am I not right?
Yeah, no, 100%. That is one of the most pressing issues of our time right now, is we really need to change the way that we discuss things online and offline, because it's bleeding into offline spaces. And I worry about, what does 10, 15 years of this kind of decay look like? It's not pretty. And it takes a critical mass of people really taking a stand against that and, persisting through getting shit or, being, I don't know, talked down to for trying to say, hey, let's be civil, let's be respectful, let's acknowledge the humanity of all people in this space. Let's not reduce people to simplified ideas or, simplified political perspectives. We are first and foremost people. It's very easy to forget. So yeah, I'm sure the ex-Mormon stuff, I had a little taste of it, way back before I know that potential exists. But you doing what you do and providing a space like this, I think, is one of the most powerful things there is to overcome that.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I really was inspired by Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X even early on. And Angela writes, social justice work is going to war. And I agree on the one hand, but I also, someone like Gandhi and even MLK, they didn't speak in, yes, their work was polarizing and divisive, but their rhetoric didn't seem to be, to me. I mean, yeah, to say the black man should be able to vote or the black woman should be able to, not have acts of violence against them. Yeah, that made people angry and was polarizing, but there's something very respectful about Martin Luther King's discourse and Gandhi's discourse. And I want to strive towards that,
Yeah. Elevating the discourse. Well,
yeah.
They were under incredible threat. It's just, yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, I think those are good role models and people to try to apply to our modern, our modern chaos.
Yeah. Well, keep it up, Laci Green. You're a gift, and you're loved by so many. And even though they're haters, the lovers outnumber the haters by the thousands. So,
well, thank you, and likewise, keep moving.
All right. I'll reach out to you separately. Thank you, Laci. You're awesome.
Thanks, John. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, all our listeners.
Have a good week.
You guys stay tuned and support us on mormonstories.org if you want to. We rely on your support, and take care, everybody.